Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the board meeting for the Madera County Arts Authority. We are here today with limited visual presentation due to some problems with the new system over there, but I think we can make do, and we can send out once we get organized and get the machine running, we'll be able to send out the pictures so you'll be able to see it, okay? So today is going to be a lot of auditory. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Are there any additions to the agenda? Hearing none. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
And a second?
I second.
Good. We have a motion and a second by Joetta. I think they got it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Who hasn't done that lately? Okay, Drew?
All right, ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 4 is public comment. If there's any public comment, members of the public may address the board on any matter under the jurisdiction of our board not appearing on the agenda. We will not take any action on anything presented. Is there any public comment? Okay, then we'll move on to the regular session. First, you have the minutes of the board meeting from January 26th. In your packet. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Is there any discussion? Any comment from the audience? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now the highlight of the day, the treasurer's report. Do we still have
Yes.
money?
It doesn't get much better than this. Yes. Thank you. So we have under 5B, discussion and direction authorize the payment of warrant 16 in the amount of $405.72. If we go back in our packet, we'll see that these are invoices from January 2025, February 2025, and March 2025. It was not approved on 4/28 because there was no quorum to hold a meeting, so this item, for whatever reason, was not updated or added into one of the following agendas. So we will be looking at that, and this is a invoice for clerking services provided by the County of Madera. So are there any questions regarding this invoice? Also, in your packet, you have our checking account statement as well as other items. And as we can see, things do balance in terms of the expenditures that we've had. Pretty much our expenditures over the last year and probably in the next few years are going to be confined to clerking services. Mm-hmm. So with that, are there any questions?
No?
No.
All right, very good.
Is there a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
I so move.
Moved by Joetta,
I second.
second by Drew. Any discussion? Any comment from the audience? Okay, I'll bring it back. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we're up to the ad hoc report, item 5C. Item number 1, I had hoped I would have for you on, so you could see it on PowerPoint, but we're not able to broadcast today. There's something disconnected to the system. Okay, thank you. So I am going to
Thank you.
I'm going to proceed with some comments and some thoughts about where we are right now and what we're thinking about in terms of our DOMA project, our Downtown Madera project. And then we're going to go to item number 2, which is the downtown summer events, okay? Whatever, that's the next item, everybody.
Yes,
Okay.
5C2.
Okay. So, okay, so I wanted to just quickly say that when we started this and brought our group together, representing the city, the county, the school district, and citizens of Madera, our goal was to see to the development of a Madera Center for the Arts. And you know that we've spent a couple of years now trying to build support, action downtown. Part of our project is done. The courthouse park has taken on a whole new light. There's more, you're going to see more activity going on. We had Christmas parade and tree lighting. And so, you know, we're beginning to get more people around and building our business downtown, okay? But we have to keep in mind that our goal is to have a civic center project, arts center, civic center, event center project that will bring people down to the downtown area for events and activities, and in this case, they might be indoors, okay? And so you know that we have a DOMA plan, which includes a large theater, gallery space, open space, event space for the community. That was going to seat 500 people. There'd also be space to rent, a kitchen, a black box theater, gallery space, and outdoor gathering space. Okay. When we costed that out several years ago, that was going to be $60 million. That seems a little high for us, and so we've been thinking about what options could we have in the intermediary, or what would be some other ways of thinking about the center. So I met with the architect, Paul Halajian, and Shant Jimian, who's here with us today, and talked about maybe thinking about some other options for at least the theater portion, because that's the most expensive part of that building. Okay, and then we also went over and looked at the Madera County Government Center, which used to be Lincoln School, turned into a government center, turned into probation and district attorney and everything else until they got their building done. And we had a member of the community, Wally Nishimoto, said, why don't you take over the old Lincoln School building and start using it, because it has been used, start using it, and then when people see there's something there and you start seeing that we're starting to renovate it, then maybe they'll get more excited and maybe, you know, we'll finally get moving on the project. So last month, we went and looked at the old Lincoln School project. There's plenty of space over there, but there's not a theater. We talked about the possibility of keeping the two corridors on the outside, which were classrooms, keeping the two corridors, which are historic, and then the middle, taking that out and possibly putting the theater in there, okay? And so then I went to the architect's office and said, what are you building in theaters for communities nowadays? I am sorry that we don't have the pictures, okay, because we can't get them up on the screen, but I'll send them to you. It turns out, and Shant will talk about a little bit more about that, but that caused us to think an option cheaper than $60 million is a little different theater design, and we could have event space, office space, gallery space on the outsides, and we could also have rooms that we could, offices that we could rent to nonprofits and things. And then local groups could meet there, and we'd build more people into downtown that way, okay? So that's an option. And then we started, and so we looked at Fresno Pacific College the other day. It has a model similar at Reilly College and another one at Central Unified using smaller, the multifunctional theater, okay, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Okay, then, for some reason, I keep talking to people and, or listening, I don't know which is. And then, Arnaldo, now's when you listen. Okay, so the person I talked to last said, you know, also consider the corner of Yosemite and Fifth Street, which is a city-owned property that I don't think has a claim of an idea on it yet, that may be what we use for the Arts Center and put it on the other side of the railroad tracks. So don't, you know, consider that, okay? So, okay, so we're considering that. The issue that keeps coming up, no one is surprised about, and that is who's going to own it and how are we going to pay for it, okay? And so I've been talking to several people and organizations and whatnot about those questions. So one option was, as I already said, reduce the cost of the facility, which would make it easier perhaps to get it funded. And then there's the option of checking out, as Reilly did. Reilly College put their theater downtown, they use it, and the community uses it. So there's that kind of possibility where you share use, but it's owned by the college. An option we explored with Madera Unified before was that we would put, that the school district would build a theater for their group and also have that available for downtown as well, which kind of fits the need at Madera High because they only have a black box. They don't have a theater. So that could be a co-use kind of thing. But if it's downtown, then the community could use it as well. Okay. So that's another option. And then there's, of course, there's philanthropy. A couple of, you know, endowed citizens could give us a few million and we could get started. And I don't mean to joke about that because we did get $3 million that started this conversation. So we have about $5 million in the bank already. So it's not like we're starting from scratch. So that's possible. And then there's also the option of seeking businesses who want to name it. You know, the Camarina Theater Project or the Lauren Resnick School or Theater for Arts or something like that. So there would be the possibility of naming opportunities. Then there's also seeking out developers who are looking to make transition in business downtown and encouraging businesses downtown, so they want to buy up some property and invest in development. And then, the reason, Mr. Rodriguez, I'm asking you to listen, is that there's also the possibility of having county enhancement finance district, I think it's called, which is a way to build infrastructure support with new development that's going on that would also impact the county or the downtown area. And then there's also the community facilities, and I'm not sure what they call it now, that where the city could apply for funds that would be used to enhance the facilities in the downtown area. And that's something like a special district. Both those, enhancement and special district, require people to vote on it. Okay. So the advice we got from Wally Nishimoto was to make sure that we called it a civic center project so that we would have, so people would think it's not just an art gallery, it's a gathering place for the community. Okay, and then the issue of if it's a nonprofit that builds it, you don't have to pay the prevailing wage. So do we want to set up a special nonprofit group that is the development group that's going to find the money and pay and find ways to pay for it?
Mm-hmm. And own it.
And
probably.
own it, yeah. Because remember, it's about who owns it and who's going to pay for it. So it's complicated. There's lots of different ways to go about it. No one's promised us much yet. But I'd like to know your thinking about the various kinds of ways which ones we might want to forget about and which ones we might want to proceed with.
I was just going to say, a couple of years ago, when Measure C was approved, $470 million State Center Community College District bond, it's one of those things where, because Reedley was already pretty much built, they used their money for that performing
Yes.
arts thing. So I think it was like 30 million or something that they put towards that of
Yes.
the Measure C funds. And because we were not built at our campus, those funds were, a significant amount of funds were to finish and build structures and educational units and so forth. So if we would have been built out, we could have used those funds for maybe been a little bit more creative or been able to funnel those funds this direction or something. But so I'm not sure that they have any more funds or anything like that, so I'm not sure. That might check that one off the list in terms of, what's available, unless, there's another bond or some additional funds that they have, in some.
Right. And we're going to have somebody talking to their president
Okay.
about that possibility and see what they're thinking out there.
He's really into agave, so if we made it some kind of a
Right,
tequila, processing plant or something, it could be.
Proceeds from the tequila could
Yeah,
build the arts center. Yeah.
Exactly, or tequila tasting in the arts, it might make the arts look better.
Yeah.
Or something more enjoyable.
So thank you. Other thoughts about that?
Now, you'd mentioned something about the city property. It's the one at E in Yosemite, right? Yeah, okay.
And I don't know if Arnold, you want to speak about that at all or not at this point? It's up to you. Just come up here to the.
Testing. For the record, Arnoldo Rodriguez, City Manager, City of Madera. The property purchased, or the city purchased the property several years ago. There's an echo in here, but I'll just keep talking. So when the city purchased the property, we obviously purchased it from the previous owners. The former hotel there that was built in 1931 or so burned down. Shortly thereafter, city staff met with the property owners. We purchased the property. At the time, we described it to the city council as, this is the worst sales pitch I'm going to make. We'd like to buy the property without a set plan. And the purpose of the city buying it was we wanted to make sure that that's the historic site of the first building in the city's history. It's been there's been two buildings on there. Both of them were lost to fire. And both were rebuilt. They were both previously hotels. So the city, there is a historic value in that property, not historic in the terms of a national designation or state historic preservation designation, not that historic, rather historic that it means something to this community, that's where the community got started. And we purchased it with the intent of building a multi-story mixed-use building,
Right.
something that's high quality of design. Commercial on the ground floor. The upper floors would be reserved for either residential or office. We have been cobbling together some money for that. We do have several $1 million. The challenge, though, is there's deadlines with some of those funds. And so we're trying to hit a moving target here. Some funds will expire, and we're going to have to move them to other projects to make sure we use the funds. But then at the same time, we're trying to use the money we have to try to create some synergy or to try to see if we can leverage those funds. We do not have a design in place. However, the concern was then and is still now that we were concerned if that property got into the private market, that maybe something that the city didn't deem appropriate for downtown could potentially be proposed. There is no specific plan in downtown Madera. And so whenever you don't have a specific plan, you could potentially end up with something Not to say it's a bad project, just a project that doesn't reflect the values of the community in terms of what a downtown should look like, or what kind of urban design you have, or what kind of activities are in that area. So again, so the plan was to buy it, and then we eventually come up with the plan with no absolute certainty in terms of, does the city build it, or do we turn it over to a developer? So that part, to a developer.
Developer.
Yeah, and so very similar to the intersection of Fifth and C Streets, where the 2 3-story buildings are with the 48 apartments. The city owned that. We turned it over to a private developer. The city got the grant for it, and voila, here you have 48 units at a couple, roughly $20 million project. So that's a long-winded way of saying we are working on some concept plans. We have not retained an architect, but rather I would say concept plan in terms of how we can potentially line up funding for a future project.
Do you know the acreage there, Las Vegas?
It's about, off the top of my head, I want to say 31,000 square feet. An acre's 43,560, so probably 3/4 of an acre. That seems a little bit big now that I say it. It's probably smaller than that. If you would have asked me that a couple of years ago, I could have told you precisely. And then we obviously have the downtown project, so our focus has been on backbone infrastructure in the area, and a couple of other key projects we're doing, including the former Greyhound Station remodel, which we're moving that forward as we speak.
I'm sorry, I'm missing part of what you're saying.
The former Greyhound Station?
It's not there anymore?
No, well, Greyhound is stopping, but they no longer use the building,
Oh,
and we are remodeling that building inclusive of public bathrooms. And so we have money for that, and that's it's in almost final phase of design. And so we'll be going out to bid for construction on that shortly.
for our use, I'm concerned about the amount of parking that's available around there. If we were going to have some kind of theater kind of, project, I'm not sure.
That would be a major concern.
Yeah. Which makes it nicer here because we have a 4-story parking garage that's available nights and
Correct.
weekends. So, okay. So you're just concerned that you control the architectural style of that corner, right? Because
Yeah.
that's going to enhance what happens downtown.
Correct. And at the same time, we want people in 50 years to look back on our generation and say, boy, the city really got it right. I think use is not as important. However, I would caution anyone when it comes to usage in a downtown area, you do not want government on the first floor. You do not want businesses that are only open 8 to 5. You want businesses that are open
In the evening.
In the evening, and you want them open on the weekends, and you want generally something that's service producing, either be a restaurant, clothing, coffee shops, something that serves the community and something that serves as a destination. It's about placemaking in downtown. If you go to most downtowns, it's really about placemaking.
Right.
And so you don't want something that closes at 5. You generally don't want anything that's financial services, and you don't want any type of government.
Okay.
And government, it's all inclusive. Anything that's related to government, you typically do not want on your first floor in your downtown.
Okay. That's good to know. And I want to commend you and thank you for putting the big article in the newspaper that explained what's going on with Yosemite Avenue. People complain and complain and complain, and so now they're going to get it all fixed, and I think it's going to look great. I'm going to pass this around, by the way, so that you guys can see it. We had I don't know what he was then, but anyway, this person came in, and he has made some little graphics of what some of the streets around downtown could look like. Yeah. And I think when you do pictures like that, you can get people excited about what, this could all look like in the future.
Yeah.
When they start thinking about the possibilities.
Yeah, so you have the downtown, and then you have the neighborhoods around the downtown.
Yes.
And one of the big focus areas of the city are the neighborhoods around the downtown.
Yes.
If you drive around the neighborhoods downtown or the neighborhoods around downtown, you'll see a lot of activity. We have our sidewalk repair team We were just awarded additional funding last week of an additional 250,000 or so. So that team's going to continue. We've been hyper-focused on the neighborhoods around downtown in the public spaces. And if you drive around there, you'll see a lot of improvements in the public spaces or in the public realm.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And then finally, before I introduce Sean to talk about this theater, well, let's go ahead and bring you up. Sure. This is Sean Jimian. Thank you. And you have to go to the microphone. Sean works for Halogen Associates. They did the design for the Center for the Arts that we've all seen as part of the DOMA project, and the ensuing street repairs, and then worked on the park and made us find opportunities for growth and development downtown. I went to visit them a couple of weeks ago to talk about this concept of if we wanted to use part of the old Lincoln School and maybe put in a lower cost theater, what would that look like? And they then told us that that's what they were doing in 3 other places. And so I invited him today. We just looked at the old Lincoln School over there, so he has a few comments about that and some idea. I know you have to go, okay. Thank you for coming. He just looked at the old building over there and is going to give us some thoughts about that as well, okay? And I'd like you to, that's Wally Nishimoto. He's the other person in town like me who thinks we could do this. So.
A believer.
There's what, 2?
2 of you now. Okay.
Thank you, Julie. How are we on time? How much time can I take? Okay, so I'll try and summarize in maybe 10 minutes, and then we can kind of have an open discussion. For the record, Shant Yamenjian, Senior Associate Architect with Paul Hodgin Architects in Fresno. Thrilled to be here. We've been working with Julie and the team for several years now, as she articulated the vision that was Elaine Sakara's vision and the gift that she gave that allowed the Madera County Arts Council to dream and think about how can we provide something that's going to become a civic amenity, serve the arts, and allow programs for high school students, young adults, et cetera, to bring them to downtown and to thrive in the creative arts. I'm a big believer in our practice and in design in the notion of synthesis, so I'm going to actually throw out, in my opinion, I think the number one direction that we're going to be pivoting to here in the coming weeks as we rethink this project. And go with me along this metaphor for a moment, and I will try and articulate and explain it as clearly as I can. It's really, we're at the crux where we're realizing the difference between a slope floor and a flat floor. Mm-hmm. And it kind of seems like a technical nuance of designing cultural performing arts center or theater spaces, but here's exactly what I mean by that. One of the facilities that we toured with Julie and Paige last week is a project we finished about 2 years ago at Fresno Pacific University. I think Julie even mentioned it in her remarks, called the War Canteen Center. The difference between the War Canteen Center, let me just explain a little bit what the War Canteen Center does. It's for Fresno Pacific University, a private university in Fresno that doesn't have, endless pots of money to spend from. And so they're frugal, if I may, and they want to stretch the dollar and leverage their building construction as best they can. So what we designed for the War Canteen Center in Fresno Pacific is a flat floor, what Paul and I think, kind of affectionately refer to as a Swiss Army knife of theaters. It doesn't do anything at the exceptional theatrical, sort of Juilliard, Kennedy Center, Lincoln Center. It's not that type of a theater. It's not trying to be that type of a theater. What it's trying to be is, how can we get as much use out of this thing as we can? So let me pivot to some examples that might be relevant here to us locally, like the Sheboygan, or even like the Soroyan Theater, or the McClarty Center you guys were talking about at Reedley. Fine facility, wonderful facility. These are all sloped floor, purpose-built theaters, which they've spent lots of money to provide a quality space that performers will be the first to tell you they're wonderful spaces. But when the space is not being used, the once, maybe twice, 3 times a month, it's doing absolutely nothing. And that's fine for a school district, that's fine for a junior college perhaps, but it's not fine for a community center like this that needs to not just be a 30, 40, 50, 60,000 square foot building that's only used for 14 hours a month, but also can bring life to downtown outside of when there are events. So it's for that reason, at War Canteen at Fresno Pacific, what we've designed is a flat floor space with telescoping seats, so that the seats can essentially be put away. They can have their schools, their universities' annual banquet in this facility when the seats are kind of stowed away. They can actually use the entire space for like ballet practice and any sort of theatrical performance. There's a sprung stage, but the stage is also on the same plane as the ground. So imagine just a large, expansive volume that you can do multiple things in. I think they even have like recreational activities with, kids kind of playing around in that space. So I think that's the idea, is that what we've designed, I think we're very proud, and I think Julie will be the first to tell you that what we conceptually came up with is a really neat idea, and we would love to see that built one day. But I think we're realizing that the purpose-built theater, which had 480 seats in a sloped floor configuration, which was designed to bring in maybe not like A-level performance and shows, but pretty good artists that can still attract 300-400 people to this theater. Shifting from that purpose-built design to something that can use space in multiple ways, like I say, a flat floor space, but also maybe even thinking about another component of this original design was there was the purpose-built theater, which was 480 seats. I don't know if the camera I can pass this around actually too. Maybe the camera does. Mm-hmm. Is that it's not visible? I can also just pass this around. Let me just point out the 3 or 4 primary spaces. So this was the Performing Arts Center floor plan. You can see here, this was all the theater, the purpose-built theater with the back of stage, fixed seating kind of in the round. This was a really nice open courtyard that actually faces, so this is an all-glass entry facade to the building, and this courtyard, which could also function as activity space and event space, was designed such that it looks out and it's on axes with the National Register Courthouse Park across the street, which is a beautiful building that is worth framing in that sense. So purpose-built theater, a separate black box theater, and a large banquet hall that really activates the street here facing the library. I think what we're realizing is we need to come up with a way to do this and this together in one space, which for lack of a better term would effectively cut our 48,000 square foot building probably down to like 30 to 32,000 square feet. So that's, I think, cost-effective design decision-making number one. The second cost-effective, I can pass this around. Sarah, shall I start here? Or yeah.
So that's giving us essentially the plan we started originally.
That's right.
But instead of the big 500-seat theater
Right.
with every Carnegie Hall bells and whistle,
Right.
Into the smaller theater.
That's right. So I would say that's cost-effective strategy number 2, which we just looked at the Lincoln School, and it seems as though between the original Lincoln School that was built, that's still, and this is kind of, without any formal research being put into this yet, it seems as though, and actually, Mr. Poitras, actually on the back as you were talking, I did a sketch of the agave facade for the new building, actually, to present to, but the idea, like what you can see there in that sketch, the 2 wings on the either side, I was just jotting down what we had just walked through, which is, I think, that we think, Julie and Paige and I think, those are the 2 original wings of the school that are still there, and it's about a 32 to 33 foot wide building footprint. So we think what we can do is bring in potentially some of the non-theater elements, like the music place, the art galleries, the place for youth to, come in, do recording studios and that sort of thing. We can actually repurpose those things, which would be a huge cost-cutting measure, because now I'm just, going based off what I saw. I'm going to say maybe 18,000 square feet between those two wings. Well, now we don't have to build 18,000 square feet of square footage for a new building, and the new building can essentially span between those two wing elements. So that's, I think, the second major pivot point that we're realizing is we need to get more use out of single spaces. And also, if we can look at using what's there, which none of our concepts, none of the design work that we had done to this point looked at the idea of using what's there on the site, or at least parts of what's on the site. So we think if we do that, we can reuse existing square footage and save on cost of construction, because we don't have to build new for at least that portion of the square footage.
Questions about that or comments? Questions or comments about that?
I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, to put $60 million into something, even if we had, and it's only used, a few days a month versus.
Which always takes us back to who owns it and who's going to run it. Because we've known from the beginning that with a theater, if you're not using it all the time, you're not going to make enough money to turn on the lights.
Yep.
And the only way we think we'd be able to use it all the time is if the school district was using it. Because we're not going to get that many community plays and, concerts from out of town. Excuse me. So this makes more sense in terms of utility.
Right.
I think also.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
Yeah, because right now, there's event space in the community. Hatfield Hall seems to be the go-to place, plus a few wineries around, but it'd be nice to have something newer where people could gather for different events and who knows what. I mean, there could be other,
Right.
sports things that people use during the week, recreation. So sky's the limit. Mm-hmm.
Any other board member comments right now or questions? I'm going to ask if anybody from the audience wants to share any thoughts, comments about that concept. I never, ever considered even leaving part of the Lincoln School up there until we went and looked at it. So we still have the question of who's going to own it and who's going to pay for it, but now it might be a little cheaper. And I think you said it looks like structurally it's doable, at least in the wings. And then the center part was where the courtrooms were. That would be the part that would get, changed.
Yeah, I would say, as Julie, we talked about last week, I would say the two next steps, or the most important next step is there's potentially hazmat in the building. It's what looks like where the DA and juvenile, was on the opposite side of the courthouse, was the juvenile center?
Probation?
Probation.
Where it looks as though where probation and DA is a newer construction, and by newer, it looks to me like it's 50s, 60s. In fact, it has a lot of the similar characteristics of City Hall here across the street. I don't know if it was built about the same time, but it looks like that portion may have been 50s or 60s, but the original school is definitely older than that, and what's left, in fact, there was a photograph in here, what's left are the two gable wings, we believe, is all that's left from Lincoln School. So if we start from preserving that, I would say that the most important next step is to make sure that there's no major hazardous materials or RACM, any radioactive materials that need to be abated. As long as those two are, there's nothing that can't be overcome. To your question, Julie, yeah, structurally, those are, we all know, I'm preaching to the choir here, buildings that were built in 1920 are generally, built very well, and for it to be, stood the test of time. So yeah, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't be able to repurpose those two wings, and then, if the possibility is there, to use the middle portion to raise that completely and start new construction in that middle portion, which actually lends itself to a third point, and we talked about this, is that's another cost-cutting measure, is in our original idea, it's almost, we had to build that or not build it. It was very hard to put a phase break in that building because
Okay.
the theater is on one side, the kitchen's on the other side, so it becomes really hard to build only one part and then come back and build another part later. But I think with this concept of reutilizing the building, maybe the galleries can come in first, and maybe the easier to operate and build from a cost standpoint spaces can go first, and bring activity and bring life, and people start thinking, okay, this is an interesting site, we're here a couple times a month, and that could potentially lay the ground, create a little bit of a groundswell for fundraising for later construction. So I would say phasing becomes actually a possibility now, where it wasn't before.
Right, and we don't have to wait 20 years to.
That's
do
right.
something like- And that was Mr. Nishimoto said, they just used it, so we could
That's right.
continue using it, and then that lets people know something's happening, and then maybe we'll see some people that want to donate to it. So I think it's got possibilities. But I wanted to check with an architect to see if I was just dreaming.
No, it's definitely feasible. No,
Okay.
oh, here, I don't know if, let me, 10 seconds and I'll be out of the way here. Were you able to zoom in earlier? That was really cool. Nice. So this wing and this wing, so this is photographed from like the second or the third story of the parking structure looking north. So that and that are, I believe, all that's left from the original school. And this is what looks like maybe the 1960s construction. Yeah, so this wing and this wing, the clay tile gable roofs seem to be the only thing left from Lincoln School. So those would be the two wings, and we could potentially start from scratch with this middle section completely. And the way that lays out on site, I apologize for the poor sketch here, but I was just so this is Courthouse Park on the north. These would be those two wings. We can still use them to advance the sort of courtyard idea and do a new construction as phase two down the road as a future phase. So repurpose these now, get life here, get feet on the ground again, bring folks downtown for things maybe they're not coming downtown for now, and then this could be something down the road. So.
Okay. Do you have any other questions, comments?
My only comments would be in terms of seeking financing for something like this. I think we need to look at what have other people done in terms, or what public agencies have been the most successful in raising money or finding grants or whatever for this sort of thing. Is it a county? Is it a city? Is it a school district? And I think a lot of it's based on use. How is it going to be used beyond a performing arts center? So what would that be? Recreation, community, education. I know we had a meeting one time a couple of years ago with upstairs with some school district folks. And at the time, there was some real interest in looking at that property for I think it was some kind of technical education component. And then the discussions all of a sudden stopped. I don't know if that funding dried up or whatever, but yeah, so I think that's, what has been successful in funding these things, and then maybe find out and then kind of back in activities which would allow that, whatever that entity is, to move forward. So, it's one of these things with private donations. It seems like Madera, I just don't see the big contributors, the big money people. You mentioned the Resnicks, and they've done some great things like on the west side and different places up and down the valley. Not sure they'd be interested in this thing. It seems like they're really into like schools and some real practical on the ground stuff,
Sure,
housing
right.
and things of that sort.
I also think that people can get a picture and maybe get excited about something if something's already there. But when nothing's there, and we're all
Right.
just thinking, yeah, I don't think you're going to get anybody.
And it seems like, a lot of the major developers, they're doing stuff on the 41 corridor in Clovis, different places. The national developers, they've got stuff in all 50 states, and not sure they'd be interested, in Madera. I'm trying to think of somebody, some group, you've got the Gallows in Modesto, and you've got some of these major people. You've got Shahadis, and you've got others, the Schmidt camps, but they're very Clovis and Fresno oriented. It seems like those businesses are we've got some big businesses here, but they're headquartered elsewhere. And so it seems like we need to, from a practical, pragmatic standpoint, we need to realize who we are, what the resources are, and focus on that.
Right. And let me spin off of that. The last thing we did last week was we talked to a person whose name I can't remember, who was involved in the redevelopment of downtown Clovis, Old Town. And I never knew there wasn't an Old Town Clovis, but there was, and it wasn't anything, and no one really wanted to be there. And so they started, kind of like we are, thinking, what do we do? How do we reactivate our downtown? For what purpose, and why would we be doing that? Okay, so once we get the road done, and I think that's what Mr. Rodriguez worries about, is what are we going to do with that downtown? And he had a couple interesting comments I just wanted to share with you to wrap this up. They started with a storefront improvement program. Those are things like awnings, painting, things like that. And then they try to get businesses to encourage them, encouraging their customers, potential customers, to come downtown to their businesses. So, for example, if you have a little restaurant downtown like the California Grill, rather than just hoping people show, they would be more targeted in their approach. And I think the waffle spot coming downtown is going to be a big example of that, because they're going to bring their customers with them. And those customers are not people that normally go downtown. So once that happens, then you start getting more people. So that's what they did first. And then they did what they called the coolness factor, for fun and different things to do. So things that you can't really do anywhere else, but it was a one-of-a-kind kind of thing that they did. And you saw how many people came out for our tree lighting at Christmas this year. I mean, people like that kind of thing. They started with a world champion pole vaulting contest on Main Street. And apparently that just brought out a whole bunch of people. And just go, oh, look at this place, So people started talking about it. Just like we talk about having a pomegranate festival and, things like that are unique to our community. And then they had a concept of special districts. You probably know about this, but they considered a civic district, where, like here, where government is, an entertainment place, a park, which we have. And then, he said, they spun off into neighborhood houses that are architecturally significant. And he said, when I drive around downtown Madera, there's all kinds of craftsman houses and little bungalow-type places that are becoming very popular. And so once people got downtown, they started looking at other places they might want to move to, and it reactivated the neighborhood around the downtown.
Wow.
Because I drive around all the time looking, well, I want that cute little house. And that. So anyway, that worked for them. And then he said, people look for authentic things to do. In their area, it turned out they had a lot of antique stores and gift shop kind of things. We'd have to decide what do people want to do here and what would be enticing to them. And then, of course, storefront design and, making things look decent around. So I thought that was kind of interesting and hopeful for us, because we're getting our downtown street done, so it's going to look completely different. Anybody else? Comment?
So what are next steps?
Well, I'd like to know who would be sitting down, who would we want to sit down and talk about this funding issue and what might be next steps in pursuing that? Is that somebody from the county, somebody from the city, somebody from the?
Gosh, let me see. County, city,
I know.
school, yeah. But yeah, it might, I mean, we're mainly policy, members. We make policy rather than, maybe more in the trenches. So maybe that would be a good idea. And I think it would be, what are our needs? For instance, the county, what are our needs as a county from a facility standpoint? The city, what is the city's need for facilities, and what would be the purpose? The school district, what is there a need that the city or the school district would have for a facility and for activities? And so then those all need to be meld together. I mean, there may not be a need for one of the agencies. They may say, well, hey, we're fine where we are, and so they're really not interested in playing. But one of the jurisdictions might say, hey, we've got 12 different things that we need to do, and we need space for it, and then start working on some ideas as far as funding goes. So who knows what that looks like? But I agree. I think it would be a great thing to do to.
Yeah,
Together
and I think
group.
it needs to be staff, because I don't think it's going to be us.
Right.
If we have someone who's interested in this, is involved in this kind of thing, and can say, well, I think we could go over here, look at this kind of thing. No, we're not connected to that,
Right.
There might be some people from our various staff agencies who could help
Right.
us.
So what we do as a policy board is we direct our people to get together.
Right.
And have that meeting, and then they report back to us in terms of a strategy or something
Right.
in terms of what they came up with. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you want to comment about that, Mr. Rodriguez, since you're a staff person from the city? I think we have someone from the county here, too.
For the record, Arnold Rodriguez, City Manager, City of Madera. My only comment would be that I think it's a good idea. I think it's going to take a lot of different people involved, going back to what Supervisor Poitras said. I think it's going to be dependent on the needs of those individual agencies. And if I may just mention something else that I did not mention earlier, and I only bring this up because Dr. O'Kane had mentioned a facade program. The city started a paint palette program. City Council authorized it last week, so we're going to be moving that forward where we are going to require that commercial buildings be painted a certain paint, well, I wouldn't say a certain paint color, but there's going to be an array of paint colors that businesses, that either new businesses or businesses that are going to be painted, they have to comply, and there is going to be a permit process. A lot of those details still need to be fleshed out. City Council, so that is moving forward. That's been authorized by City Council. We have discussed very, just at the most infant stages, we have toyed with the idea of having some kind of financial incentive to have those businesses come into compliance where the city would assist financially. There is not a grant for that, so that would come from the city's general fund right now. So that's your sales tax dollars. But the paint palette program is, City Council authorized it last week, and that's going to be adopted by ordinance at the city. So that is moving forward. The reason I bring that up is not necessarily this board, but in the past, since I've been here in Madera as city manager, people have brought up the various paint colors in the community. And some people like it, some people don't like it as much, I'll say. And so that is moving forward. So with that, as far as the city goes, the city will try to be a good partner and at least be at the table along with its partner agencies to try to identify a path forward. Not to say it's going to be an easy path, but the city welcomes the discussion.
Good, thank you. Mr. Nishimoto?
Your fellow troublemaker there, Dr. O'Kane. Wally Nishimoto, Madera citizen, concerned. Yeah, I think there's definitely a future path for the old Lincoln School, and it's just we have to find what it best fits for. I think many people agree that the arts are an absolute need for our young people and our community. You know, with is it Prop 28 that designates schools invest in new art programs annually and continually, and which was voted on by the citizens of California, and so it stipulates that they spend additional monies on the arts, and we've made huge investments in our school districts for STEM. Mad Tech, Torres, Madera South, all of them have wonderful technology centers that have grown through the system. The school district has done great spaces there. And yeah, so the next thing that we need to do as a community is look at the arts. And, and I remember when we toured the facility last month, I was surprised at how many small rooms there were, and so the concern of the group was like, what do we do with all these small rooms, right? We have to knock down walls, we need to make bigger space. But then I just went to visit Cal State Northridge with my son, who's a music student, and they have an entire building full of small rooms.
Right.
Because they're all practice spaces. And so you have to think of, rather than to think of the mind as a community member as like, you know, how do we cram 100 people into a 10 by 10 space? How do we find a niche space for that single artist that wants to be able to practice that he can't practice at home? How do we give him the tools to expand their art? Different, you know, rather than finding ways to spend more money, let's find ways to spend less money and affect more people, right? We just need to be creative in how we do it. That whole one wing is all small offices. I know that Art Council is investing in community music and such, and it's an opportunity for an offshoot. And I didn't even realize it until I toured Cal State Northridge. It's like, wow, we could actually do that. And it just, you know, don't have to spend a lot. It provides new space. Half of it could be for music, half of it could be for mini art studios.
Right.
Yeah. Let's just find the accommodating space for, you know, for that need. And then we can probably find somebody to provide food, you know, somebody that wants to invest in building a kitchen space or something like that to create that late evening atmosphere for full-time access. You know, but we need to start somewhere. And yeah, I think Dr. O'Kane, you're right. We're have something there that is tangible, that people can grasp onto, and you know, not to speak in dismay of anybody, but you know, we don't want to be the next Fresno Aquarium.
The longer I talk about this, the more I feel like the Fresno Aquarium.
Yeah, but at least now we might have a building.
Right.
But yeah, thank you for the continued effort. I appreciate it. It's
Well, that's what we're about here, is trying to figure out a solution to this. But,
yeah. Thank you so much.
okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, we have one more item on the agenda to get to today, so we can get you out of here. And that is what we're doing with our summer program. Correct? Oh, here we are. Okay. Item 5C2, which is the update of our 2026 Summer Concert Series at Madera County Courthouse Park. We had a great first season, shocking to all of us that people came out. People who didn't think they were going to feel safe came and had a good time and came back. And so that gave us the courage to do year number 2. And I don't know if, are you going to talk about this?
I wasn't prepared to, but I can.
Oh, okay. What happened was Nick got called away because his mother's sick, and so he's not here today to handle this part. But we got this, okay, which gives us an idea, and Andrew's on the committee planning it, so you want to talk a little bit about it?
Yes. So this year, we're starting up May 1st. We want to start with something kind of like last year. Last year, we started with MUSD Mariachi in the Park, so we thought we'd give it another shot, the Uno de Mayo, not Cinco de Mayo, because the first is on that Friday. Our goal here is to bring in the school district again. If not, we'll have like bands or groups come in. We'll have entertainment, food, everything to bring people, I guess, out to the park again this year. This year, we did get sponsorship with Chuck Chansey Gold and Resort Casino, so they're giving us some funds to provide the entertainment. Going to the next month, we were thinking of maybe a comedy night, hiring some local talent, bring people out for free. Then July, continue it, more music, just different types of things to bring a different variety of people, demographic. Also, August, we're thinking of doing a taco throwdown. Last year, we had a great success. We did Fresno versus Madera, and surprisingly, it was one of the hottest days of the year, and we still had a great turnout. Going to September, we do our Old Timers Day Parade, and after the parade, we do Boosts in the Park. Like I said, last year, all the events turned out really great. I mean, I think we have it locked down to continue this year to make it another success. And then we'll kind of wrap it up with Christmas in the Park and do the tree lighting again. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We're still working on the details, but it should be a good turnout.
Yeah, I think we're trying to develop something people can look forward to as a different kind of thing for Madera and an organized way that they can plan on something happening, and that's just great. So that's coming up. Thank you very much.
Yeah, May 1st, don't forget.
Don't forget.
Everybody here, I'd like to see you there.
We had such a great start with the mariachi group from the school district last year. We had all kinds of people out, so that's great. Okay. Any member staff reports? Good. Seeing none, thank you for coming. Thank you, Sean, for coming today. We appreciate it. I'm sorry we didn't get to show the pictures, but have we got the PowerPoint thing so we could show the pictures?
Yeah, if the file is saved, I'll stay afterwards. I brought the entire 100. I'll pages from that PDF file to post.
Okay, good. Okay. Then if there's nothing else, meeting adjourned. See you next month unless we cancel.
I was thinking right now, why I didn't say it. Looking